Well, just last week, President Trump directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to produce federal grand jury transcripts in connection with an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein in the mid-2000s. He made that request after a Wall Street Journal report came out claiming that Trump sent a lewd 50th birthday letter to Epstein back in 2003. Trump's directive was ultimately blocked by a federal judge on Wednesday who said the court's hands were tied and they could not release the files.
Our 9 News legal expert Whitney Traylor joins us now to help us understand why. Thanks for coming in.
Sure, good to be here.
So why did the judge refuse to release the grand jury transcripts?
Well, I'm not surprised, and I don't think the Trump administration is probably surprised because there's very limited situations in which grand jury testimony can be released. That whole process is a private process, and so really there's 5 different exceptions: preliminary to a judicial proceeding, at the request of the defendant who may be filing, trying to dismiss the indictment, at the request of the government for use in a criminal proceeding. So none of these reasons, the Trump administration, the DOJ said, hey, we want this because there's this strong public interest. That is not a reason at all to release these grand jury indictments or testimony. So that was the Florida judge. There's still some pending in this New York judge. There's 2 judges looking at that, and they've asked for briefing next week, but I doubt they will release it either for the same reasons. It's very limited in which you can release this grand jury evidence.
Well, I think a lot of people are curious what kind of evidence or information in general is in these grand jury transcripts.
Well, that's a good question. And I don't know that it's going to be as informative as people really want, because remember, at the grand jury, they just have to present enough evidence to get the indictment or the criminal charge. So usually they don't present all of the evidence. So I'm not sure how revealing it will actually be. I mean, obviously it would be more revealing than what we have because we don't have anything, but I don't know that it's going to be that informative to the public.
Yeah, he has also sued the Wall Street Journal over its publication implicating him. So talk about the claims and defenses that are in this lawsuit.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I think this was a political move. I mean, from a legal perspective, I think this is really a bad move. I mean, President Trump has really thrown his weight around since he's been in office, and he's been very effective in a lot of these lawsuits. This one, I think, was more political fodder because he's saying, look, if you publish this, we're going to sue you immediately. They did. And so it's a defamation claim. But the interesting thing about that is he has some real problems because, one, because he's a public figure, he has to show actual malice. So that means that he's going to have to prove that the Wall Street Journal knew that this was false information or completely disregarded the truth. So maybe they didn't know, but they were just very flippant about it. And that doesn't seem to be the case here. The other thing is, this is a civil trial, so there's going to be depositions. So he's going to have to be testifying under oath about some of these things. And really what's interesting about the defamation claims, because a lot of times people file defamation when it's something that's harming their reputation, so it's something that's bad, but the whole crux of the trial is whether or not these aspects are true. So you're now going to be in a court of law. You're not going to be on a bully pulpit. You're going to be in a court of law talking about the actual evidence, proving, was this true or was this false? I don't think he wants any part of that. So I think this was not a good move to actually file this lawsuit from a legal perspective.
We're just about out of time, but I want to ask, because he's asking for $10 billion in this lawsuit.
Yeah.
How did he arrive at that number, and what's the likelihood for him to get that?
That's a great question, how he arrived at the number. I don't think he's going to get it because, one, you don't get speculative damages. And here, how is he going to show that he was harmed by $10 billion? Right? He's saying that it was reputational harm. And all of the things that have come out about him that have actually, the E. Jean Carroll guilty verdict, the 34 felonies, those things are much worse and actually happened. So here, I don't know how he's going to show that 10 billion. And secondly, he didn't even have to put a number in. When you're in federal court, and I think they were under diversity jurisdiction, you only have to sue for over $75,000 to have jurisdiction in federal court. So most people don't actually put a number in there. So the fact that he put that number in there, I think, was more for show than actually the legal basis. So how he would actually prove 10 billion, I don't know, but the bigger hurdle is actually winning on the merits, which I don't think he can do at all based on what's out there now.
All right, we'll see what happens here. Whitney, as always, thanks for coming in.
Sure, good to see everybody.